Welcome to this explainer. Today we're doing something a little different. We're going to take a quiet, steady look at the hidden constraints of our modern society. We aren't here to dissect whatever's breaking in the news today or, hype up some singular global crisis. Instead, we're just observing the underlying architecture of our world. We're looking at infrastructure, capacity, and really, why things feel exactly the way they do right now.
Civilizations don't break first, they stop flowing. Flow. It's kind of the silent rhythm of our world, isn't it? We're so conditioned to look out for dramatic collapses, these massive shattering events. But the reality is actually a lot more subtle. Before the break comes the pause, the loss of momentum, the loss of flow.
And that brings us to this really fascinating tension. The world just keeps expanding. Technologically, economically, digitally, we are constantly growing. We basically live our whole lives with the premise that expansion is limitless. So why does it feel so clogged? We hold on to this illusion of infinite scale, yet practically everywhere we turn, we feel this visceral mounting friction.
Just look at the phenomena we're observing across the globe right now. Power constraints, logistics delays, port congestion, GPU, and data center shortages. Now, usually we read about these in the news, and we treat them as totally isolated incidents. A local power grid issue here, a little supply chain hiccup over there. But if we observe them carefully, these aren't random events, they're signals.
Because they aren't separate problems, they are the exact same structure. We really need to stop looking at these events as just disconnected, temporary problems that we can easily solve. They're actually different manifestations of a single, hidden architecture that we are all currently living inside. They are all expressions of the exact same pressure.
To really grasp this, let's break down the structural layers of civilization itself. It starts with the planet, right? That's the ultimate baseline. Then, energy. Next up is infrastructure. That layer supports AI and our technology, which then influences the state, culminating in civilization as a whole. But I want you to direct your focus entirely to step 3, infrastructure. This is the critical layer. This is exactly where the friction happens.
And the crucial point here is this. Infrastructure defines capacity. Capacity. Let's just sit with that word for a second. See, infrastructure isn't just the background scenery of our lives, the roads, the power grids, the fiber optic cables. It is the absolute physical limit of our reality. It dictates exactly how much flow the entire system can actually sustain. It defines the absolute ceiling.
And right here, we find a really profound asymmetry. Think about the trajectory. Demand points sharply upward, capacity points straight ahead, horizontally. This is basically the fundamental gradient of our modern era. Demand, fueled by the digital economy and human needs, accelerates non-linearly. It just shoots up. But physical infrastructure? Building a new power plant, laying underwater cables, expanding a massive port. That kind of stuff only expands in a slow, linear, and heavily delayed manner.
So the immediate result of this mismatch is pretty clear. AI demand is rising at just an unprecedented rate, and because of that, energy stress is rising. Consequently, the overall infrastructure load is rising. What we have is a non-linear demand colliding with hard, unyielding physical limits. The speed of our technological ambitions simply does not match the speed of our physical world.
Which brings us back to this realization. Civilizations don't collapse, they clog. Let that word linger, clog. The consequence of reaching our physical limits isn't some explosive apocalypse. It's not a sudden, dramatic end. Instead, it's a chronic, grinding structural stress. It's a constant state of friction where things just take longer, they cost a whole lot more, and eventually they just stall out.
Because when a system operates at its absolute limit, small delays propagate. Since the infrastructure is essentially entirely clogged, there's nowhere for that excess pressure to go. A single point of failure, or honestly, just a tiny localized delay, no longer stays local. It inevitably ripples outward through the entire global structure. One delayed cargo ship, one overloaded power grid quickly becomes a worldwide backlog. And the current state of our world is pretty much defined by this reality. Still functioning, but no margin. The lights are on. The data is still moving. Our packages are, eventually arriving. The system still works, but it's pushed right to the very threshold. It's operating completely without any protective slack, without any buffer. There is simply no margin for error anymore.
So I want to leave you with a final question to consider today. When we look around our modern world and we see all this intense, non-stop activity, are we actually seeing growth, or are we just seeing the disappearance of slack? Take a moment to reevaluate the world through that lens. The system isn't broken, but it is no longer flowing smoothly. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.